Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter Show, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we're going to talk about it here. My name is Eric Lorta, and I'm here with my co-host, England's adopted son, Joe Habib. And we have a special guest here from Montero on boxing. Michael Montero is here with us, and we have a great show for you tonight, man. If you want to call and ask some questions, you can call in right now at 323-870-3857. We'll be here till about 8:30 or 9 o'clock tonight. Today, we're going to talk about tons of confusion around the Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz rematch, and we'll see if we can clear it up for you. I can't promise anything, but we'll do our best. And Mayweather versus Pacquiao 2, is it in the works? We'll talk about it later. But first, we get started with Emanuel Navarrete versus Francisco De Vaca. Francisco Cabeza De Vaca. That's actually his name. Threw me for a loop. The cowhead. That's what it translates to. For Navarrete's WBO junior featherweight title, from start to finish, this was a one-sided fight for Navarrete, who stopped De Vaca in round 3. De Vaca took some big shots in this fight, and actually it could have been stopped a little bit before it was, but, man, I tell you, De Vaca was just outgunned here, man. Bob Arum called Emanuel Navarrete the best fighter in Mexico. I don't know about that, but he's got a big upside, that's for sure. He can fight. And whether he's the best or not, man, I guess there's really no way to tell, but he's a pretty good fighter. You know, my problem with Navarrete, though, is that he may be forced to move up because that's where a lot of the bigger money fights are. The people in his division right now, I don't think he can line up a huge fight in that division. You got Danny Roman, Ray Vargas, who would be both good fights for him. But when you go up to 126, you got Gary Russell, who fights once a year, Leo Santa Cruz. You got a lot of Josh Warrington. You got bigger hitters. Shakur Stevenson, even up there. So you got some bigger hitters up that way. Mike, let me start with you here. What were your thoughts on De Vaca? What were your thoughts on Carlos Navarrete De Vaca?
So I talked about this on my show, Eric, on the Neutral Corner, my podcast I do every week, and I said that De Vaca, if you just look at his resume, barely fought outside of Phoenix, right? He's born in Mexico, but fought mostly out of Phoenix, lives and trains out of there. And he just hadn't faced that level of opposition. This was a quantum leap in opposition for him. And if you just look at the resume, this was set up for, I don't want to say set up, that's the wrong word, but this was lined up for Navarrete to have an easy night so that he could fight in that Tyson Fury Otto Wallin card. And that's exactly what we saw, right? So some people, kind of gave me some shit saying that De Vaca had a bunch of amateur fights and everything, but they were at the regional level, right? They were right there in Arizona. They weren't at the national or international level. This was a huge leap in opposition. And it showed. The craft showed. I got to give credit to the referee, Raul Caiz, Sr., because he stepped in there and stopped the fight. It was obvious De Vaca's corner was not going to stop the fight. He was taking a bunch of punishment. He showed a lot of heart, but the skill, the craft wasn't there. Now, real quick about Navarrete, doesn't have a whole lot of skill, doesn't seem flashy, with his boxing craft and everything like that, but tall, long, punches and bunches. I don't know how much longer he can make 22. You talked about that division. I'm looking right here at the champions in that division. You mentioned Danny Roman, Ray Vargas. Those are makeable fights. Those are makeable fights politically, right? And it'd be all Mexican or Mexican-American. And because Danny Roman's Mexican-American, but with Vargas, that'd be Mexican versus Mexican. That could be big, right? But up at 26, you mentioned Shakur Stevenson. And he's going to fight for a title soon. He's going to win that title. And he's with Top Rank. So I think down the road next year, I think that's the path that they're going to go. I think that's the eventual path. But right now, is Navarrete the best fighter in Mexico? No. It's maybe Canelo, but it's probably Juan Francisco Estrada. That's pound for pound, maybe who it is. Seriously underrated fighter. But look, this fight went exactly like I thought it would. It was one of those, this whole card was basically a commercial. right? They had Tyson Fury there. I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they had Tyson Fury there talking about his upcoming card. It's basically a commercial for that upcoming card.
I agree. Beeb, give me your thoughts on Navarrete, and would he be effective moving up?
The thing about him is, I know he gets criticized for not being exceptionally skilled, but I think he's dangerous. Not because he's big and strong for the division, but he's unorthodox. But there's a little bit of orthodox and unorthodox mixed together. So when you have a guy like that, like same thing with Deontay Wilder. Everyone says Deontay Wilder can't box, he can't do this, he can't do that. But when you look at the highlight reels when he's landing that right hand, he's setting it up pretty good with a jab. So they talked about, the uppercut being thrown, which is something you don't do. But it was really thrown perfectly. Like there was no pulling back and torquing it. It wasn't telegraphed. So if you can get away with doing that because you're throwing it picture perfect, then you're going to land it. And, he can brawl a little bit on the inside, grind it out, but he also showed some ability to fight on the outside very well, too. So when you get a guy who can pretty much do a little bit of everything and bring some unorthodox tactics to the table, then that's a guy that's dangerous. So that's what I got the sense of. Like, I think that people will kind of label this guy as just a guy who's an offensive guy who just throws all caution into the wind and wants to blanket you with punches. But I think he's an accurate puncher. I think he's a precise puncher, and he's strong, and he's in great shape. Now, whenever you hear someone fight somebody, and the other guys thought the biggest compliment that the other guy can get is, "Oh, he's tough, he's rugged." That kind of is a code word for he gets hit a lot. You know what I mean? So I pretty much agree with Mike. I thought this was definitely a showcase fight, and Bradley was really trying hard to sell it as something that it wasn't. Well, he's really tough. He's rugged. He went rounds with this. Yeah, but did he win? Did he win, Tim? How did he look? Was the fight competitive? So, no disrespect to any fighter out there. It takes a lot to get in the ring. But the thing is this, if that's the biggest compliment you can give somebody, he's got a great chin, that just tells me he gets hit a lot. So I kind of knew this guy. I kind of knew this guy was going to be target practice.
So this was like a WWE squash match then.
Yeah, this was like Dr. D. David Schultz versus SD Jones.
There you go.
Pretty much.
Does he? And I'll pose a question to both of you guys. Does he have success going up? And Shakur Stevenson is going to be the guy they're going to match him against. Does he have? Does he have a chance against Shakur? I guess.
Here's the thing, Beeb. I'm sure you'd agree with me. You look at the Dog Bay fights. He's punching down, even against the Vacca, punching down against the guy standing right in front of him. We haven't seen him fight a guy that can move. We haven't seen him fight a guy that knows how to fight tall with range and uses length, as Stevenson has learned how to do recently. Even a guy like Leo Santa Cruz, who politically maybe that fight can't happen, but just in terms of styles and length and everything like that. And when we saw Leo have to box a little bit in that rematch with Frampton, he could do it. He showed us he could box a little bit, right? He has the IQ. We haven't seen Navarrete fight against one of those guys yet. So it's just a big what if. We don't know at this point. But, based on what we've seen so far, I think he'd struggle with a guy like Stevenson. That would be my pick. I'd take Stevenson by decision in that fight. You put a gun in my head right now.
Here's the thing, though. Stevenson kind of fights in spurts. He's not a guy that throws a ton of punches. The interesting thing about the fight is you got a guy who does throw a lot of punches and who doesn't stop. Fights a very fast-paced fight. So Stevenson may want to take a break here and there, kind of step outside, reset. But if this guy's on him like flies to you-know-what, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to deal with a fast-paced pressure fight like that. That's the intriguing thing about this fight, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you, and I think Grandpa Bob, who's been doing this shit for a while, knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He sees exactly what you just said. He saw it 10 months ago 12 months ago, and he's saying it for a building experience for Stevenson to learn on the job. That's what I see happening. I think that, look, Navarrete against Stevenson, if that fight happens next year or something, I think that it's a tough fight for Stevenson. I think he's going to have tough moments, but I think he's going to learn on the job and get past that, and that's going to be one of those matchups that gets him to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But Stevenson, is very disciplined too, and he doesn't make many mistakes. So this would be a great test for him. This would be a great test for him just to see mentally how he could stand up to the pressure. Because again, it's not just a physical battle in there when a guy's coming at you. It's the mental pressure of just having to sit there and say, I got to keep this guy off me. No matter where I go, this guy's in my face. That kind of wears on you mentally too. So,
but look who he's got advising him. He's got Andre Ward.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Who dealt with Kovalev. You know what I'm saying? So, and other guys with that similar, not exact, but similar kind of pressure style. So, I definitely think he's got the right people in his corner, and Top Rank knows what they're doing when they build these guys up.
I think when the fight does happen, Stevenson will be the favorite. But once again, it'll still be a tough out in my opinion.
I agree.
Hey, while we're on the subject of Top Rank, I want to pose this question to you, Michael. What about Robeisy Ramirez, who came out?
Oh man, Top Rank and Cubans, brother. It don't work well.
They're not mixing, are they?
Yeah.
He came out and he clearly lost that fight. I mean, he was knocked down. You're down at that point 2 rounds. You clearly lost the fight because I thought he won the second round too, and I thought maybe you could give the last 2 to Ramirez. It didn't really matter. Is this guy? I mean, can he come back from this? I mean. This guy was. And people say, well, Bernard Hopkins lost his first match. Erica.
But he wasn't dominated.
Right. Well, that too. And the other thing is, listen, this guy was brought in from Top Rank. All right. To get walked over by Ramirez. This was his sole purpose, like De Vaca last night. This was his sole purpose, to come in there and get squashed. And he didn't.
You mentioned the B-Hop fight, right? Yeah. B-Hop did not have the amateur pedigree that Ramirez had. So that's a big difference. Ramirez, not once, but twice went to the Olympics and medaled, right? 2 gold medals. So all that experience, and then you're going in there against the guy that you're supposed to walk over, like you said. B-Hop was a guy out of prison, doing it the old school way, building himself up, right? So It's so different. It's so different. Mentally, it's going to play on Ramirez. You'd think, look, if I'm Grandpa Bob, I'm putting Ramirez right back in with that dude. Right back in next month. Another 4-rounder, and have this guy win a 4-round shutout to prove that was a fluke, and then you move forward. If they don't fight that guy again, I think it does more negatively to Ramirez in terms of his mentality. You know what I mean? Don't let that shit stay out there in the air. Just get right back against him. And I think he can rebound, but that's a tough one, man. That's a real tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. Beeb, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
You got to put him back in, and you got to get him in there quick, because once he gets the sense that you don't believe in him, he's not going to believe in himself. So
exactly.
He needs a pep talk. He needs people around him to give him some reinforcement, advice, reinforcement therapy, if you will. And they got to throw him right back in there, because the fight, he lost the fight, but they could talk to him and let him know that, what, maybe you could beat this guy. That this just wasn't your night. Maybe you let the moment get to you.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. If that's an 8-round fight, Ramirez wins, right? He comes back and wins that fight. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a 4-round sparring session. You sparred enough, in 4 rounds, any damn thing can happen. It doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah. So just tell the kid it's a snapshot in time, and we can fix that. 100%.
All right. Let's see here. Jesse Magdaleno versus Rafael Rivera. 10 rounds featherweights. Magdaleno won via 9th round technical decision. Scores were 88-82, 89-81 twice. And Magdaleno was cut from elbow from Rivera that was ruled unintentional. Mike, was that intentional?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It didn't look like he egregiously went after him like that. You can never know. Some of these guys get really, really good at being able to hide their intent with what they're doing. But look, man, there was headbutts throughout this fight. It was nasty. It was ugly. And how many headbutts and fouls did Magdaleno accidentally commit himself? So in that kind of a fight, I have no issue with going to the scorecards, and Magdaleno did the better work. But did this do anything to move him forward? That's my question. Did this move him forward anywhere? Does this get him anywhere closer to a title shot? I mean, after fighting Dogbe and losing pretty badly to him, he fought Rico Ramos. I'm actually looking at his schedule right here. Rico Ramos, pretty good, quality fighter. I don't know, Rafael Rivera, what does this do for him? That's my question. What does this do for him moving forward?
It just keeps him where he was beforehand. It's like basically a stalemate, so to speak. He doesn't go forward or backward. Yeah,
I agree.
Another showcase fight. Once again, they were trying to make this something that wasn't. But if you know the deal. If you're watching it, you know what you're watching.
Magdaleno made it harder on himself than it could have been. He could have boxed smarter. He actually, I mean, obviously he's got a lot more experience than this guy.
Yeah.
And a little more craft. He could have made this fight easier for himself. Maybe the fans got to him a little bit, the location, the venue where it was.
Yeah.
And he got a little bit, he got into a barn burner a little bit.
Yeah.
That's on him.
Should have pot shot it from the outside. He could have done it all night.
I agree. And after the fight, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like him and his corner were cheering and screaming and yelling to the crowd and everything. Like they had this huge accomplishment. Like this was this big war. I don't know, dude. I mean, again, I think you got sucked in a little bit to the audience and placating to the crowd a little bit and not thinking long term about your career and what you're trying to build on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now I'm hearing that I have an echo on the mic, and we are working to try to fix that. So I'm actually going to dish it off. I'm going to talk about the fights and then dish it off to you guys. All right. So Chris Van Heerden versus Aslan Kozayev, 10 rounds welterweight. Van Heerden won a unanimous decision. And then they interviewed. I want you guys to talk about the Tyson Fury interview. And he talked a little bit about his next upcoming fight in Andy Ruiz. Beeb, why don't you start it off here?
Well, he's basically kind of saying Andrew Ruiz wasn't really known before the Joshua fight, and what Joshua did. What he did to Joshua was basically put him on the map, so to speak. But a lot of the stuff he was saying was kind of hyperbole, I think, because he's trying to justify these levels of opponents. But like I said before, even his brother Shane was being interviewed by IFL TV. And he himself said that, if we can fight these types of guys and get the money we're getting, then that's what we're going to do. We have, So they basically let the cat out of the bag, like I said. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell, these last two fights. And obviously he's got to put a happy face on it, which he tried to do. But I'm not buying it. And again, I'm the biggest Tyson Fury fan. He's my favorite fighter right now in boxing. I love the guy, but I can't justify what's going on right now in terms of being a fan of the sport. I'm not happy with the choice of opponents. They were saying that they approached Pulev, and they mentioned a few other names. I think they said they approached
Povetkin,
and Povetkin, Miller, whatever. I have a hard time believing that. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that. I mean, they know what they're doing. These are all showcase fights, and it seems like they're focusing too much on his personality and his story, and they think that's going to kind of make up for all of the other BS in terms of the choice of opponents. And because when they're doing press conferences with him, to try to hype these fights up, they keep talking about his story, keep talking about how entertaining he is, how well spoken he is, and this and that. Yeah, that's great, but again, this isn't a play. This isn't a movie we're watching here. We're not here. It's not WWE. We're not here to listen to promos. We're here to watch a fight. And if we know with 100% certainty that the guy's going to win, and there's nothing left to the imagination, then that's really not a good look, in my opinion. So I think he spent the whole interview trying to justify this opponent, and he really couldn't do it. in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that, look, this is all, they're just trying to move forward with that rematch with Deontay Wilder. So it's about preserving that rematch, and they don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
So, okay, maybe you made an offer to this fighter or that fighter, but look, I can offer you $5 to fight. You might tell me to go fuck myself. You know what I mean? So it's not just because you made an offer to somebody, if you don't disclose the terms of that, well, we don't know what that means. So this is all about the Deontay Wilder rematch, which is the cash out for everybody. That's where they're going to make the money on the end of this contract. So people that watch this fight against Otto Wallin, is it Wallin or Wallin? I'm not sure.
Wallin. I think it's Wallin.
Wallin, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, you have to be a big fan of Tyson Fury or just a boxing junkie to watch that fight. Now, look, they put Emanuel Navarrete on there, so that's going to bring some of the Mexican-American fan base in there. That's going to help with the ratings. It's smart marketing. It keeps Tyson Fury busy against the taller guy. It's going to be target practice. He'll score another knockout. So to the casual fans, he's got 2 knockouts in a row coming into the rematch with Wilder. Does it mean shit? No. To any of us that know boxing and understand what's going on here, is Tyson Fury going to be any more prepared for Deontay Wilder early next year after fighting Schwartz and Wallin? No, absolutely not. But to the casual fan, he's fought 2 tall guys who are, I think, was Schwartz undefeated? I know Wallin is.
Yeah, Schwartz was undefeated.
There you go. So 2 O's, 2 tall guys, and he's going to score knockouts, which is something Fury doesn't do against elite level fighters. That's going to help market that rematch, and it's going to help sell more pay-per-views.
All right. Do I still have the echo? If anybody in the chat would be so kind to tell me if I still have an echo.
Could be a Skype issue. Skype's kind of
Skype's
quirky.
terrible. Skype's
kind of quirky. Skype's quirky.
It sounds great to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds perfect to me.
You know, and like when we talk here, it's fine. You know, and like we all talk and we can hear each other fine. We all talk and we can hear each other fine. Okay.
Give me Lute said no echo.
Okay.
Good job, Eric.
No echo.
Beeb Industries tech team was on it.
They were. I called them down. From the 3rd floor. And I was like, hey,
good job, Lois.
Floor 26. Hey, I need you to come up to floor 26.
I know Eric talks a lot of crap about you, but
Lois.
Lois is Beeb's imaginary blow-up doll. For those
please.
For those of you who don't know,
please,
she's his secretary.
Hashtag
she's his secretary.
That's all I'm going to say.
See, Mike knows the deal. You've already had human resources call you a few times. You can't talk like that.
Nice, very nice. All right, and that was UFC 241. I almost forgot. A lot of people were hoping I would forget. I almost forgot. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic. Stipe wins by 4th round TKO over Daniel Cormier. Cormier did really well, but bottom line is the UFC title is coming down to Ohio. So there you go. Nate Diaz beat Anthony Pettis, which was a pretty good win. Got the unanimous decision. And that was enough for. Let's see here. UFC. Now they're saying there's an echo. First there was no echo. Now there is an echo. I don't understand. Now there is an echo. Somebody help me.
There's a slight delay.
Somebody help me.
Yeah, that's
Skype. Yeah, that's Skype. Yeah. All right. So let's move ahead here to the upcoming fights. Let's see here. All right, August 23rd. I think that's a Friday. Vladimir Shishkin versus DeAndre Ware. This is on Showtime. 10-round super middleweight. 10-round super middleweight. And that'll be on Showtime. What's that?
Jaron Ennis. That's the Showbox card.
Yes. And let's see what else we got here. Abraham Nova versus Miguel Beltran Jr. 10 rounds junior lightweight. And that's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. That's the main event there. And then the big one. From Chelyabinsk, Russia, on ESPN Plus, Sergey Kovalev versus Anthony Yarde, 12 rounds for Kovalev's WBO light heavyweight title. Beeb, start us off with this one. What are your thoughts?
Say that one more time. I was reading the chat. I'm sorry.
How dare you? From Russia, Sergey Kovalev versus Anthony Yarde. Who do you like? Why?
I like Kovalev, and like I said before, I think Yarde's a little bit green. I think there's a little bit of a defensive holes in his game. I think he gets a little overzealous at times. I think he's more of a mid-range guy. I don't think he's that inside guy like an Andre Ward that I think would really give Kovalev a ton of problems. I'm not saying the fight would be easy for Kovalev, but I think Kovalev is just so good boxing from the outside. And I think this new version of Kovalev, who realizes that he had to change up things a little bit, and it's not all about just getting a knockout anymore. He doesn't want to be the crusher anymore. Now he just wants to win, and he realizes that the door is the window is closing, the door is closing, and he's on the other side of turning the corner here. So I think you have a Kovalev who's dedicated again. I think he realizes things that he did in the past that were not helping him, and he got Buddy McGirt, who's kind of settling him down a little bit and working on his strengths and trying to minimize his weaknesses. So I think Kovalev realizes that he can win this fight with his experience if he just boxes. And I don't think he's going to try and turn this into a slugfest until he softens Yarde up, which I think he'll do. I think eventually Yarde will get softened up a little bit. I think he'll be taking a lot of right hands in this fight, and I think the jab will be key here. I think it's going to offset a lot of things that Yarde tries to do, because Yarde doesn't always work off the jab. He likes to jump in with, he has a little bit of Roy Jones in him, and I think that could hurt him in this fight. Whereas you got a guy who, when he wants to be disciplined and box, he's a tough fight. Even in the Ward fights, he was boxing phenomenal in both of those fights. And then he just kind of wilted under the body attack. I don't know if Yarde's going to get close enough to be able to implement the body attack like Ward did. I don't know if he's got that dog in him like Ward does. We'll find out, but I suspect that he doesn't. So that's why I'm going to go with the more experienced Sergey Kovalev here, and I don't think he's done. I don't think he's shot. Now if the Canelo fight happens, that's a different story, because we've seen how Canelo can work on the inside. I'm not convinced Yarde can do that same thing, and that's why I'm rolling with Kovalev here. I think it's a little too soon for Anthony Yarde. I think they rushed him into this.
Yeah, he's jumping from 0 to 60 like overnight. Just look at who he's fought. It's not like he has an amateur pedigree. He's going from junior high to not even college. He's going to for his doctorate degree overnight.
Yeah.
When it comes down to Kovalev, though, which Kovalev shows up. He's had legal troubles. He's had different things going on. You guys heard about the thing on the plane with some chick, and then there was a thing in California with another chick. Who knows what's going on with all that? So is he 100% in shape? Is he 100% mentally focused? This fight is in Russia. Last time he was in Russia, he fought Isaac Chilemba, who nobody looks good against, right? But he struggled at times. He dropped Chilemba. He clearly won the fight, but he didn't look great. The last time before that in Russia, he killed a man, right? The result of their fight, his opponent ended up dying. So doesn't have the best track record in Russia as of late. So if I'm Anthony Yarde and I'm in his corner, I'm telling him, survive early on, get this guy into the later rounds, try to get inside, try to work the body. Beeb, you mentioned the dog in Andre Ward, getting to the body, but it's also the experience.
Yeah.
All that amateur experience, right? And then he went to that Super 6 tournament. He saw different types of styles as a pro. Yarde hasn't seen any of that. He has no amateur experience, no pro experience. Yeah. So I agree with you. He's just not going to be able to get in there.
Yeah.
If Sergey Kovalev is focused and in shape for this fight, he should win, and he should win pretty soundly.
See, when people think of being a good inside fighter, they think it's all ruggedness and toughness and being a grinder. But what it all boils down to is body positioning. Because when you're in there, you have to make yourself a compact target, and you can't stand straight in the middle. You have to step off to the side to create some.
You got to get on your opponent's shoulder, right? You
gotta exactly.
Get on shoulder right there.
Exactly. That's the only way you can get leverage on the hooks to the body. Because if you stand straight in there, you're going to be throwing arm punches. So you have to kind of step off to the side and have that shoulder in between your knees, so to speak. So that's the thing. Andre Ward was great at positioning his body. There was a lot of sophistication to what he did on the inside, and a lot of people just looked at it and maybe not understood it or really could analyze what he was doing in there. I don't think Yard has that sophistication to his offense, and that's what you need. That's what you need to dissect a guy like Kovalev, and that's the thing. I think. I just, like you said, I don't think he's equipped, given his experience and what he's done so far in his career and what he's been through in his career. There's no fight that he's been in that would suggest to me that he's on the same level as Kovalev skill-wise. Like he hasn't fought in anyone remotely close to what Kovalev has fought. Now Kovalev's fought in better guys than Yard and held his own or won. And he came back and beat Alvarez, and that was a phenomenal performance. That was very impressive to me.
That might be his best win.
I would have to argue yes, because he did everything in that fight. He made no mistakes, basically.
Coming off a knockout loss.
Yeah. To be able to put all the pieces back together and not just from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint.
Absolutely.
Not break down and not have that stigma hanging over your head that this could happen again in the second fight. I think that made him a better fighter. I think that gave him confidence. I think that he could carry over into this fight. And I think that he's in a good state of mind, even with all the legal problems. We'll see what happens there. But he's always been that type of person outside the ring. I don't know if he's ever going to fix that, but he seemed to put it all together in his last fight, and that was a horrible situation for him to have to come back from. And he put it together. He put the pieces back together, and he impressed me. So, based off of that, they say you're only as good as your last fight. So, I'm going to base that performance, and I'm going to expect. I may be wrong, but I'm going to expect that Kovalev that I saw in that fight to show up in this fight, and if he does, I think he wins. I think he wins. Now, if he wins, let's talk about what Igis Klima said, that if Kovalev wins, he's going to face Canelo. Now that's a whole different kettle of fish right there. How do you think that plays out? And style-wise, could he give Canelo problems? Because we saw Golovkin do some great work against Canelo with the jab, and we know Kovalev has a great jab. So I don't think.
Yeah, and he'd be jabbing down, right? He'd be jabbing down with length, and I actually think Kovalev varies up his jab better than Golovkin.
Yeah,
and he does it throws it better from mid range, and he can also switch up southpaw when you're trying to bounce out in the ropes. Although Golovkin's he did that against Jacobs pretty well, but I think look, just in terms of styles, right now where Canelo is, I just think Canelo's going to get inside and work that body and chop him down. That's just what I see. Canelo and his people are targeting Kovalev for a reason. They see something there. I think they see the same thing you and I see, Beeb, because I think you're going to agree with me. Yeah. Canelo can get inside and do some work. Look, Canelo doesn't dominate any fight. There's no elite level opponent he's ever dominated. Never. It's always close. Yeah. Kovalev's going to win the first half of that fight. But in the second half, youth will have its way. He's going to get inside. He's going to chop him down to the body. Maybe drop him. Maybe he goes the distance, but he drops him once or something like that, and he ekes out a close 2-point win, 3-point win that people are bitching about on the internet. No, I think that's how it goes.
So you don't see a stoppage in that fight? Because
Possibly, yes. He absolutely could stop him late in that fight.
Absolutely. Because going back to what we talked about with Ward, Canelo has those traits. He can position his body, make himself a compact target, and take his head off center line when he's in that pocket. I'm
going to say something slightly controversial. Canelo's a better body puncher than Andre Ward, and I actually think he has better head movement.
He has better head movement. I was just about to say the same thing. He has better head movement than Andre Ward on the inside. And you could argue he's a better counterpuncher, but again, Andre Ward is just so much bigger, and he's got a strong mental resolve that he's just hard to break. He's just hard to break.
He's mentally one of the strongest fighters I've seen in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, he's just hard to break.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about.
Can I jump in here real quick? Can you
Sure.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Eric's on the phone.
Okay.
Holy shit, what happened?
I'm on Blog Talk. This is how bad things have gotten now. I'm on Blog Talk, which you know I love.
It's your show.
I love Blog Talk. If anybody wants it, I do. That's right. Unreal. So hopefully there's no echo. Hopefully everybody can hear me, and I'll probably just continue the rest of the show here, but I'll probably give you guys way more of the time here because my audio is not that great. All right, so so I was fiddling around with the audio and trying to get back here. So are you guys both picking Kovalev to win?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Against Yard, I favor him to beat Yard.
There's no echo on the phone, Eric.
I think that
they're saying in the chat there's no echo on the phone.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're good.
Perfect. All right, love it. We got all this equipment, and I'm calling in on a.
Why don't you put a Bluetooth on so you don't have to hold the phone though?
You know what? I probably could do it through the mixer. You know the mixer. Why
don't you stick some headphones in the
Bluetooth capability? So.
Yeah. Why don't you stick some
headphones? Maybe I will.
At least stick some earbuds in that thing. I don't want you to have to sprain your wrist. You know what I mean? You sprain your wrist holding the phone all night.
That's true.
No, I care about you. Go ahead.
You know what I mean? George,
all right.
The beautiful thing, Georgie just said he was proud of me. Georgie said in the chat he was proud of me, so that's great.
That changes everything. That changes everything. Wish you were proud of me, Georgie.
They haven't done final count at right.
I go kill myself.
So, he's up. So, right. I'm picking Yard. I think Yard is going to win. I think Yard is going to pull the upset. I think, just me, I don't know that Kovalev is ready to fight, man. I really don't. I think that's, he had that stewardess incident. Wasn't it that steward where he got thrown off a plane or something like that just a little bit ago?
Yeah.
And Anthony Yard, I think, is ready, man. He's ready. He might be a little bit green, but I think he's going to pull off the upset. And you had mentioned the fact that, I think Mike had mentioned the fact that he fought Chilemba, who nobody looks good against, and you're right. But I think he has trouble in Russia, man. I think Yard pulls the upset here. I don't know if he can win a decision in Russia. I think that's probably unlikely. I think he might.
Yeah, Yard needs to knock him out.
Just a thought.
Well, the thing is, for Kovalev, there's a lot of trouble for him in Russia. You guys, you talked about the lifestyle outside the ring. In Oxnard and everything with his friends in California, it's bad enough. When he goes back to Russia, I mean, I've heard a lot of things I can't really talk about on the record before that Chilemba fight. He wasn't necessarily training a couple weeks before that fight, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with him right now. But, Eric, look, you might look like a genius a week from now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or I might look like a moron, which, I'm accustomed to. I'm okay with that.
I just think...
There's a couple guys in the chat that think I'm a moron, regardless of what I say. I'm just looking here at the chat, some of these guys here. Hopefully they call in. Let's see what they have to say when they call in.
I think you're scared. I think you're scared your nemesis off. He's not in the chat today.
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Where did he go?
Yeah, let's see if he calls in.
He won't call.
The guy who tweets pictures of me and stuff. What the fuck, dude? I'm like a D- lister celebrity. F-. If you're tweeting pictures of me, you need to get a fucking life.
Yeah.
I tell you what, yeah, he's messed up, man. He's messed up, and he talked all this stuff. And the first thing when we found out you were coming on the show, I texted him and said, "You better call in Sunday." I said, "You better call in Sunday." I said, "For all the crap you've talked, everything like that, all the he used your picture and everything like that." I said, "You better call up." I said, "You better, He was like, "Oh yeah, well I'll call up if he says something stupid." I just call up.
Oh yeah.
I said he'll just call up,
The thing with guys like that not only bash me, but bash some of my mentors, guys I look up to that have really been good to me, and some of my peers, is that they'll see one tweet that I did, or one video I did, or one article, a paragraph of an article I wrote, and they'll take that and base their whole viewpoint of me, their whole point of view about me on that. They don't see the totality of my work. So my thing is, I'm an open book, man. If you have an issue with something I've said before, something I've tweeted, go ahead and ask me about it. I'll tell you straight up. You know, like I ain't gonna hide anything. I'll answer any damn question, and I'll freely admit I've made mistakes. There's things I would say differently that I've said before or tweet differently. Absolutely, I'm learning as I go in this business, but I'm open to discuss any subject. So anyone who wants to call in, let's do it, baby. You know, get at me. I'm right here.
Nobody can disagree anymore without making it personal. That's the problem.
That doesn't exist in 2019.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah. Everything's personal.
And everything's got to be one side or the other.
Yeah.
Why can't I be critical of all sides? It's the same, politically. If I talk about one person, it doesn't mean I'm for the other person. I'm just, if you're a journalist, which, you know, I'm working my way up in that world, you're supposed to be critical and question everything. And that's what I do. And sometimes I can't just do puff pieces on everybody. Some of these guys that do that, you know, their channel or their profile builds up a lot quicker and they make more money, but that's just not how I'm built. So sometimes I have to be critical. Sometimes I have to talk shit. It's not that I want to be negative. It's just that you have to be critical sometimes. You have to be skeptical. It's the nature of the business. And some guys can't understand that, you know, and they take it and they think that you're being a hater or you're being negative or you're biased or whatever it is. It's not that. But people don't get it.
Yeah, that's how it is.
This T White, okay,
sure.
This T White 0786 who's been talking shit about me in the chat the whole show. Call in, bro, because you're just saying a bunch of stupid shit. That's a bitch ass move. Call in with some actual information if you want to challenge me on something, and let's talk about it. It's quit posting little comments and you're like a little bitch. That's what 10-year-olds do. Come on.
How it is.
All right, that's how it is. All right, August 24th, from Hermosillo, Mexico, on DAZN, Juan Francisco Estrada, possibly the best fighter in Mexico, versus Dwayne Demon, 12 rounds for Estrada's WBC Junior Bantamweight title. Philip Ergovic versus Mario Heredia, also on the undercard, 10 rounds heavyweights. And Liam Smith versus Mario Alberto Lozano, 10 rounds junior middleweights. How do you guys see the Francisco Estrada fight going against Dwayne Demon?
Estrada big.
Yeah, it should be one-sided, I would say.
Yeah. It's a stay busy
squash match.
Yeah, I don't see it any other way.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the heavyweight.
On Fox Sports.
But
yeah, didn't he lose last time out? Or
you're thinking of Sergey Kuzmin.
Isn't he from Sauerland?
Maybe you're talking about Flip? Pergovich, you're thinking of Sergey Kuzmin, a really close fight, a Russian heavyweight prospect. Flip Pergovich, a lot of people are real high on him. I'm still undecided. But I am, look, I love seeing the heavyweight prospects come up. For my money, Daniel Dubois is still the best heavyweight prospect right now with the most upside. But I'm interested in seeing this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should
Sorry,
be
I cut you off, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Brandon Figueroa versus Javier Nicolas Chacon, 12 rounds. This is on Fox Sports 1 on August 24th from Texas. For Figueroa's WBA interim junior featherweight title. That's pretty much a showcase fight, no?
I would say so.
These are all showcase fights.
Yeah.
I would say so too.
These are all minus 3,000s on 5 dimes, Eric.
Yeah. The only interesting fight is that Kovalev yard fight. That is interesting, but that's it.
I'm looking forward to that fight too.
Agreed.
Yeah. Out from Alpine, California on UFC Fight Pass also on Saturday, Connor Coyle versus Rafael Ramon Ramirez, 10 rounds middleweights. And who is that? Is that through Roy Jones' promotion on UFC Fight Pass? I know he's got a deal with them.
Yeah, let me check.
I'm not 100% sure.
I could check that real quick. Where is that? You said Alpine, California? Alpine, California. Let's see. Man, I can't find it on my schedule. Countercoil. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, UFC.
Yeah, it's Roy Jones. It's Roy Jones promotion.
Hey, so it's Roy Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
it's
me
Roy
ask you,
Jones.
and let me pose this question to both of you guys here. What are your thoughts? And Beeb, I'll start with you here. Dana White has said, I mean, since we're doing the UFC Fight Pass thing, is where the fights are. Dana White has said that he hopes to be in boxing by like October, like this year, fairly soon this year, probably in October. What are your thoughts on that? And can he make a run at this?
They definitely got the capital to do it, So that's a plus. But if he comes in thinking he's going to run it like the UFC, like he kind of indicated, I don't know if everyone's going to go along with that, because you got to deal. This is a situation where he's going to have to be working with other promoters, and I know he worked with Mayweather Promotions for the Conor McGregor fight, but that was, anyone could have promoted that fight. I mean, that fight was just huge, regardless. But if he decides that he's going to try to run this like the UFC and kind of have kind of run it with like run an extremely tight ship and try to have that type of control over the boxers, and try to work with other promoters and try to make this best versus the best. We all know that that's not easy to do in the sport of boxing. So if he comes in with that mentality, I don't know if he's going to succeed. I'm kind of excited that he's coming on board, given his work in the UFC. He's shown some success there. I don't think he's a stupid person. I think he understands business. He's a boxing fan. He kind of follows the sport, and he was involved in the sport when he was younger, I think, at the amateur level, so he says. So I welcome him in. I mean, I'm curious. I'm interested, but I don't know if he's going to be successful right off the bat. I think it's going to take some time. And he's the type of guy where he seems like he wants to make a splash. But he was very patient with the UFC. It took him time to build it, and there was times when they were losing large amounts of money, and they could have folded the tent up and went home, and they didn't do that. So if he brings that type of tenacity into the boxing sector of what he's doing, I think that given time, he could do something. But I'm curious, and I'm excited about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it took him 10 years to make a profit in UFC.
Yeah,
a long time.
Yeah.
So if he has the difference with boxing is, I mean, with UFC, there's basically one sanctioning body, one promoter. Pretty much, it's an American type of business. I mean, I know they do some events outside of America, but for the most part, it's an American entity. So most of your athletes are American. I get it. There's some that aren't, but for the most part, with boxing, it's truly global. And you're dealing with multiple sanctioning organizations, commissions all over the world, different promoters. If he comes in trying to do a hostile takeover,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah,
it ain't going to work. If he comes in, hands open, let's work together, I want to learn from you, okay, he's got a chance. And it would be interesting if he has that approach and he takes his time and he has a 5 to 10 year plan, what he could do, because with his success in UFC and that branding and everything else, and really the demographics he would bring into boxing, that boxing left long ago, middle America, basically, suburbia, middle America, that's what UFC has, that boxing basically told to go fuck itself decades ago. If he could bring that back into boxing, that's a huge, huge thing. But he's got to go about it the right way.
Another thing, too, is you hear him criticize his fighters a lot for not fighting, not being in exciting fights and not fighting with aggression or whatever, and kind of playing it safe. There's going to be some of that in boxing. So if he starts talking trash about the fighters like he does in the UFC, how is that going to translate over? How is that going to fly?
That's a great question, man. Yeah,
that's something else I thought about too, because you're not going to be able to.
It's a different culture, right?
Different culture.
You can't quit. You can't take a knee. You can't quit on your stool. A loss is so much more important in boxing. So he's going to have to learn all those things. He can't bring UFC's culture into boxing.
Yeah.
He has to assimilate to boxing's culture. That's the big difference here. And if he understands that, he's got a chance.
And the thing is this too, we're so used to not getting the fights when we want them. He's not. So that's going to be a culture shock for him right there as well. So
also the money.
Yeah.
He's used to keeping 2/3, 3/4 of the money and telling these two guys, hey, you two, go fight behind that dumpster.
Yeah.
I'm going to charge $80, for the pay-per-view, and I'm going to keep 3/4 of it. That shit ain't happening in boxing.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell that to two guys, and they're going to be like, what? You're going to pay me X amount of money if I'm going to go fight that dude. So there's a culture thing that he's got to learn here. He's basically immigrating to a new country. He doesn't speak he thinks he speaks the language because he fought some amateur fights. That don't mean dick. He doesn't. He's got to learn the language, learn the culture, take time, assimilate, and then again, because of his capital, his name, the brand recognition, all of that he brings with him, he has a chance if he goes about it the right way.
I have a feeling he's going to try and link up with Eddie Hearn and do a lot of business with him.
He'd be smart to do it.
Because he's a younger guy, and he probably feels as though he can relate to him, more so.
Built-in fan base with the UK fans. If you go that route, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think him and Eddie Hearn will probably get along well. I know him and Aram don't like each other at all. And
complete opposites.
And him and De La Hoya don't like each other at all either. So and PBC doesn't play well with others. So I think he's going to probably link up with Eddie Hearn. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Let's move on to the news and rumors this week. Andy Ruiz put out a video this week that says he's not going to fight in Saudi Arabia. I've read that the two were in talks, so that's at least good news. Let me ask, Beeb, is there any way that this fight doesn't take place in Saudi?
It depends what Ruiz decides to do, because apparently he says, from what I'm kind of gathering here, it seems like he's probably talking to some people in the government, like some maybe politicians or something, because it seems like they're going to try and use the excuse that in America where we're told not to go over to the Saudi Arabia. We're advised not to go over to Saudi Arabia because of the terrorist activity. Everyone knows about how the reporter got killed or whatever. But again, there has been shows over there with Americans. I think Janet Jackson went over there, and there's obviously the WWE goes over there, but they still catch a lot of flack for going over there. So I could see that angle where they could try to play that card, and they may have success with it. I couldn't guarantee they would, but they may. Bob Arum was talking about it. He seems to think that they have a strong case, and he's a lawyer, and he works in the United States Justice Department, so he may have some experience with that. But I just think it was a dumb move for Eddie Hearn to put this fight in Saudi Arabia. Regardless, I just think a fight of this magnitude, putting it somewhere that's kind of uncharted territory, that doesn't, a place where it doesn't really have experience. I know they've had boxing matches over there, but they've never had a fight of this magnitude. They're building a stadium, so they're going to throw a stadium together in 3 months. I just think that a lot of things could go wrong here. I'm not trying to be negative, but a fight of this magnitude, if it's me, I'm not rolling the dice. I'm not trying to make a splash. A fight like this, that everything has to go right because the world's watching, and this is an important fight. And if we have a situation where there's any type of controversy, then there's going to be a lot of negative backlash. And a lot of media members are concerned about going over there and they're afraid for their safety as well. I know a lot of people have called up Eddie Hearn, as he said, and said, are we going to be all right over there? Can women go over there? And the Brits are kind of partiers. They like to drink. They go over there, they can't drink. So how many Brits are going to really go over there? How many Americans are going to go over there? Probably very few. So what type of audience are you going to have for this type of event? And I know a lot of people are just saying, you know what, Beeb, why do you care where the fight's going to be? As long as it's happening, blah, 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 blah. But, Mike, you know this. You were in Vegas for Canelo Golovkin. That wasn't pretty at the end of that fight. That was marred with controversy. And this could be a similar situation. And that's what I'm concerned about. I want this fight to go off without a hitch. I don't want there to be drama. I don't want there to be a fan man dropping down in the middle of the ring. I don't want, a commission in there that isn't equipped and qualified to handle a fight of this magnitude. I want competent judges in there. I want a competent referee in there. I want a stadium that I know isn't going to fall apart or isn't going to be Mickey Mouse together in 3 months, where there could be a delay in the construction. These are the things that I'm concerned about. I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly here. I just have some concerns about this move and the decision to put this fight here. And that's the thing. So I'm curious to see if Ruiz does try to take this to litigation, because everyone thinks that it's a slam dunk for Eddie Hearn if this goes to litigation. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but as I've said before, it's never fun for either side when you go to litigation. Doesn't matter what's on paper. There's paper law and there's trial law. Everything can be interpreted a different way depending upon who's doing the interpretation. You don't know what type of judge you're going to have. I mean, Eddie Hearn's going to be he's going to be going into a U.S. Supreme Court if this does go that far. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And if they try to play that card of safety issues and the U.S. not being welcome over there, who knows what a liberal Supreme Court judge is gonna do? You can't say with 100% certainty that this is a slam dunk for Eddie Hearn, in my opinion. That's just how I look at it. So this is interesting. I think it's not a good look that you had a press conference with neither fighter being there, and there was a reason for that. And Bob Arum also came out today and said that it wasn't a smart thing to do to announce this fight without a signed contract from both fighters. And I agree with him 110%. Once again, I reiterate that Eddie Hearn was definitely well within his rights to do so, because he did have the rematch clause signature, and that pretty much is a letter of intent. So, he didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't do what I think was the smart thing to do. It kind of looked like, we're going to go ahead without Ruiz, and he's just going to have to fall. It was kind of like a bully move, really. Just a move it's kind of like a show of power to let them know that we're in charge. And that's another thing too. It's like it just seems so important for Eddie Hearn to show a position of strength here and let Team Ruiz know and let everyone know that he's in charge, he's the boss. I think he's letting his ego get the best of him here, in my opinion. I don't think this was a smart move.
I hear what you're saying, Beeb. I would just say that this is all speculation, right?
It is.
We don't know 100% what's being discussed behind closed doors. What's said on Twitter, what's said on IFL interviews, which Eddie basically is best friends with those guys. He does interviews with them and talks shit with them, drinks beers. What's being said there, what's being said, seriously with lawyers, contracts, behind closed doors, two very different things. So, look, the fight's signed because Andy Ruiz signed for it back before he signed for the first fight. So it's signed. He wants a neutral location. Okay, they took it out of the UK. Now it's in Saudi Arabia. Am I crazy about being in Saudi Arabia? No. But we've seen big sporting events. Look at the Olympics, the IOC. They do events in third world countries all the time, and they build the arenas with slave labor. This arena that they're building in Saudi Arabia is going to be built with illegal slave labor that they're shipping in from other countries. It's not Saudis that are going to build this arena, right? So we all know the nastiness and what's going on behind the scenes here. But in regards to the third world, in Saudi Arabia, it's not a great place. But you mentioned the safety beat for Americans. Dude, we do huge business with that country. That's why both political parties are in bed with the Saudis and never talk shit, even though their human rights conditions over there are deplorable. Because we're in bed with them with the oil money. So I think everything's funny as long as you're making money. And that's what this all comes down to. So if you put a gun to my head and ask me, it still happens this year in Saudi Arabia. I think Andy Ruiz and his team are being advised by Al Heyman, who is a very, very smart, astute businessman who knows what he's doing, and he's trying to get concessions for his side. So Ruiz is getting more concessions, but honestly, Eddie's got him by the balls. Yes, if this goes to court, it's nasty for both sides. If you go to divorce court, right, if you catch your wife with the FedEx man, you walk in, she's with the FedEx man, you go to divorce court, you know you're going to win. But it's still nasty. It's still ugly. Nobody wants to go to court. That's what this would be. But Ruiz signed a contract, right? So he's going to lose his titles, and he's going to lose eventually in litigation. At best, he could walk away and there be some kind of buyout or something like that. I still think it's going down. I would prefer it take place in America. I think they could go right back to New York. If they wanted to go for the money, if Eddie Hearn wanted to go for the money, go to Vegas. Vegas is bleeding for a big fight right now. They haven't had any big fights this year. This would be it. But apparently that site fee of $40 million is legit, and it could be upwards of $100 million total. That's why they're going to go there, man. Money talks.
I just think contract law is just not that simple. It's not that black and white, though. I'm not 100% sure. I think if the fight was in the UK, he'd have a stronger position because there's no human rights thing over there, and I get that, and I know that people have been over there. I understand your position.
Not doing it in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Doing it in Saudi Arabia, where the American government does billions of dollars of business every year with this government.
But they're hypocrites, though, because they on one side they'll do the business, but they'll try to make a political statement about how bad the country is, and they'll trash them and this and that.
With you. On that, sir, we completely agree.
Yeah.
But money talks.
Yeah, but I don't know. He even said that this wasn't the most money that was offered to him for this fight. So I think it's a power play. The reason why he's doing this is because he wants to be the first guy to put a big fight over there. I honestly think it's an ego thing. I mean, I really do.
They have the World Boxing Super Series there in Jeddah already, and Hearn that was Sauerland and those guys.
Yeah, but this is the heavyweight championship. This is the heavyweight championship of the world against arguably, with the second largest star in the sport. I mean,
hear you. I just think it's a cash grab. I think they're going. Look, if he's got a bigger offer, they would have took it.
I don't think so. I don't think so because when it was just.
I think they'd take less money to go to Saudi Arabia, where they will do a smaller crowd.
They were willing,
arguably smaller ratings.
They were willing to take less money to go to the UK over the United States, which he admitted there was more money.
Yeah, but that's different. That's fighting on your home turf. This is Saudi Arabia. I mean, why would you take less money to go to Saudi Arabia? With all
I don't think he's taking less money, but
that's what I'm saying. We're speculating, dude. We don't know. That's why we gotta just let this shit play out.
I'm going to be honest. I think the Zone would have paid whatever they had to pay to get this fight in New York, because it would have been a good look for them to have this fight in New York so they can increase their American subscriber base. That's what the Zone wanted, and the Zone is the piggy bank, really, if you think about it.
Well, so if you got some oil sheiks putting up upwards of $100 million, you don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, I mean.
And then you got Sky pay-per-view money coming in and everything else.
Yeah.
The UK fans are going to travel. You're going to get the whales over there to buy. Look, you talked about who's going to go to this fight. Is it going to be hardcore boxing fans? No. It's going to be rich oil people and celebrities, and they're going to pay a lot of money for those tickets. 15,000 tickets in Saudi Arabia is going to do more money than 90,000 tickets at Wembley. You know that.
100%.
Or 60,000 in Cardiff.
100%.
So, yeah, that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's.
I think. I'm sorry to cut you off, Beeb. I think that the fight does take place in Saudi Arabia. I think the heavyweight championship of the world takes place in Saudi Arabia in December. But the thing is, whether it's with Andy Ruiz or not, whether he'll be there or not, I think is insignificant. It doesn't matter. If he's not there, it's not going to matter. That belt is going to get splintered anyway. They're only keeping it together for this rematch. As not for this rematch, that belt is splintered.
Yeah.
You got to fight Kovalev or somebody else. Doesn't matter. So they will make a championship fight in Saudi Arabia in December. Anthony Joshua will be there. Now, whether it's going to be Ruiz on the other side of that corner, I don't know. But Anthony Joshua is definitely going to be across from him. Is definitely going to be there.
I see that happening too.
He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid very, very well.
Yeah.
Too much money already invested. Too much money already invested in the venue. Too much money.
Oh, yeah. I agree, Eric.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
Hearn's not – you can say what you can about Hearn and some of the shady business practices. He's not stupid. He wouldn't have had a press conference if things weren't lined up in escrow. You just don't – and same thing with DAZN, who's putting up a lot of their own money to promote this fight. Yeah. They wouldn't do that unless there was some money in escrow and they had things lined up. And again, DAZN's already done business in Saudi Arabia. And they've had not just boxing events, but big football events and everything. I think cricket, big things over there before. So I think I totally agree with you, Eric. Something's going to go down in December. Heavyweight title fight, regardless.
Mike, I got to be honest. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure that Ruiz shows up. I'm just being honest. I don't. I have my doubts. I really do.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame. Look, I understand why Ruiz is concerned. I would be. Look, man. If any of us were going over there to fight, we'd all be worried. I'm a former Marine, okay? I know what goes on over there. Right? I have buddies who didn't come back from that part of the world, so I understand. But there's also probably 10 million plus reasons for him to go over there. That's why ultimately I think he probably will.
Well, it's definitely not a bad business move. I'm not suggesting that at all. You know,
he's going to get look. He's going to get his own camp over there. He's going to get his own accommodations where he's going to be able to bring over a dozen or so of his people. They're going to be put up there for a few weeks. That's going to be part of the accommodations. They're negotiating that kind of stuff behind the scenes right now, visas and all that kind of shit. Within a few weeks, it's all going to be announced. That's probably what's going to happen here.
If you were a bet man, what commission's gonna preside over that fight?
That's a good question.
That's another issue that they're gonna have to deal with. That's another huge issue that they're gonna have to deal with because they still. I know he signed the rematch clause, but they still have to negotiate other parts of the contract for the second fight.
Absolutely, because they didn't think they were going to lose. So there's still parts in there they got to figure out. Look, the British Board of Boxing Control, the BBBFC, I don't like their process with UKAD, UK anti-doping. But if you go through VADA, you eliminate all that, like they did for the first fight. So you go through VADA, you'll be fine. I don't mind the British Commission. They do a good job, right? I think they're better than most commissions in the world. But I can understand if Andy Ruiz wants the New York Commission to do it again or something like that. And maybe they can negotiate that. I really don't see where Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua would have an issue with that.
I don't think they could use UKAD because UKAD is just for the UK. So I don't think
they're a government agency. They're an actual so you don't have to worry about the British Commission and the issues with UKAD and all that.
Just have VADA.
Yeah, just do VADA, and you could do UKAD if that's what you want to do, if that's what's in the rematch clause. But did they go that far?
I still don't think they could use them, though, because UKAD is specifically for that area.
No, not UKAD, but I'm saying the British Commission to oversee.
The BBC, if you want to still use the BBC,
They could, and, I don't think it makes a big difference.
Doesn't Saudi Arabia have a boxing federation? It said there was a boxing federation in Saudi Arabia.
It's not recognized.
But I don't know if that.
Not recognized,
Eric. Commission, correct?
No, they don't have anything that's recognized globally. The whole thing is with the commission that oversees, it's not that big of a deal. It just kind of makes the fight more official. As far as who's choosing the referee, the judges, that comes from the sanctioning organizations, and there's multiple sanctioning groups involved here, so they'll have a pecking order of who gets to pick what. And they're going to choose all the officials. So it's just to make it for BoxRec. Like I think Beeb, you tweeted out earlier about BoxRec and everything else. You want a commission to oversee everything. So they could bring somebody in. And they should. For a fight of this magnitude, they absolutely should. This isn't Amir Khan and Billy Dib. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of this is speculation.
This is,
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
For sure. That's all it is. I mean, that's all. And you're right. I mean, that's really all it is, because that's kind of all we have. None of us are really privy to the contract or anything like that. So just based on what we hear, what's reported, and everything like that, that's kind of where we go with things.
Just one last note on this.
Right.
I'm looking up the World Boxing Super Series finale, Callum Smith versus George Groves. A commission oversaw all that. It was in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It's all official here in BoxRec. It doesn't have the same disclosures as the Khan Did fight does. So they were able to get all that lined up. And again, DAZN was involved in that. You got to think if DAZN's involved, which they will be with Joshua-Ruiz too, they'll get all that lined up again. They know what they're doing.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to the phones now. This is Fight Doctor 312. Fight Doctor, you're live.
Fight Doctor is in the house on Rick James status as always. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up?
How are you?
What's up?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. But you know what? Listen, I have a question. Actually, I have a statement. The reason why I like to call in and the reason why I listen to Ringside Reporter is because I know that you guys love boxing. Now, me, I have my favorite fight, like everyone does. I think anyone who's a fan of any particular sport, they have a particular athlete, player, whatever, that they're a fan of, that they are a fan of who plays that particular sport. Okay, like for me, look, I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan. I'm a huge Pernell Whitaker fan. I'm a huge Roy Jones Jr. fan. You know, when I was coming up, when I first started watching boxing, those guys were at or near their prime. Okay, and I just remember, like, the things that Roy Jones could do when he was in his prime. That shit was ridiculous. I mean, he broke all the rules in boxing. He could hit a guy, get out of the way of the counterpunch, and then hit him again. I mean, it was just ridiculous what this guy could do in his prime. I mean, if you ask me, and there's probably a lot of people who would argue against me, and that's fine, but Roy Jones Jr. is the best fighter I have ever seen in his prime. Now, I don't think he's pound for pound number one all the time. But in terms of the guys that I've seen fight live, I've never, ever, ever seen anyone do it better than a prime Roy Jones Jr. That said, regardless of how great I think Roy Jones is, there's problems when you look at Roy Jones' career. He never held a lineal title, ever, in his career. Now, I can't speak to why that happened, but it did. And in particular, if you look at his quote-unquote reign at light heavyweight, that shit was a joke. It was. Because at the end of the day, of all the guys that Jones beat at light heavy, he did not fight the guy that he was supposed to fight at light heavy, who is Darius Mikushevsky. Okay? All those belts that Jones was parading around at 175, all of them without exception, belong to or should have belonged to Darius Mikushevsky. Okay? Had Jones beaten Darius Mikushevsky at 175, he could have gone down, in my opinion, and yes, I am a Roy Jones homer. I am. Proud of the fact the man, in my eyes, was great. But had he beaten Mikushevsky, which he was most certainly guaranteed to do, he could have gone down as one of the greats at light heavyweight. And light heavyweight is a glamour, story, old school 8th division. Okay, where some of the best ever have lived. Archie Moore, Michael Spinks, just to name a few. Okay, but he didn't, because ultimately Roy Jones, as physically gifted as he was, had a character flaw, which is he never dared to be great. And I think if you look at the Tarver rubber match. I think it was the 10th or 11th round. Jones had Tarver hurt. He was on the brink. He could have knocked Tarver out. But this is where the Jones character flaw was there on display for everyone to see. Jones lacked the heart to go in for the kid. He would rather coast to a decision. And I think that was a moment that Jones had to really cement his legacy and put himself amongst the all-time greats, and he came up short. Now, I went on that whole tirade to say this, that as much as I love Roy Jones Jr., I love the sport of boxing more. And I'm not going to let my Homer fandom, my like of a particular boxer skew the facts. Because, look, at the end of the day, I'm a boxing fan first. And my challenge to you, Mr. Montero, is, are you a boxing fan or are you a fan of Bob Arum or Eddie Hearn? That's my question to you, sir. Because I used to listen to your channel. I did. And I had to unsubscribe from your channel because of all of the bias, rank bias. Okay? And that's the reason why I call into this show, and the reason why I enjoy talking to Eric and Beeb, because I understand that those guys, despite whoever that they might be a fan of, we can talk boxing here, and the bias goes out the window. And I have not had to unsubscribe from this channel, because I know on this channel we're going to talk about boxing, okay? And there's not going to be any bias, no fanboyism, right about getting in front of the sport of boxing. So, listen, Mr. Montero, you have a platform, and I think you have a responsibility to represent the sport of boxing and not represent the interests of people like Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn. Okay? Because the sport is bigger than Bob Arum, and it's bigger than Eddie Hearn, and it's bigger than Michael Montero. Because these guys who get in the ring, guess what? They put their lives on the line to entertain us, the fans. Okay? Now, I've listened to your show, and I've heard a lot of anti-PBC bias. And look, is Al Heyman without fault? No, he is not. But a lot of channels, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because Al Heyman runs boxing, and that's just the reality of the matter, love it or hate it. But if you're going to call Al Heyman out on his stuff, his shortcomings, then I think you should spread it around. Because Golden Boy, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, all of them have their faults. They do. And listen.
Can I respond? Because you keep going, dude. Like, let me respond to one thing before I forget, because you're hitting like 8 different subjects here. Can I respond to one thing?
Sir, you have the floor. Sir, you have the floor.
Okay. Look. That's a lot to respond to. Look, good shit. Okay. Latest issue of Ring Magazine. I'm going to put it right up here. I have a piece right in here about a PBC fighter, Caleb Plant. Now, that I wrote. Here on my wall, you probably can't see it. I have a piece on Errol Spence Jr., PBC fighter, who I flew to Dallas to cover that fight for Ring Magazine and Ring TV. I'm flying to Los Angeles next month to cover another PBC event, Errol Spence versus Sean Porter. I've done pieces on Leo Santa Cruz. I've done pieces on Devin Haney. I've done pieces on Jamel Herring. I've done pieces on Virgil Ortiz Jr., Dimitri Bivol. I have a bunch of fighters from every single promotional outfit there is, dude. Just in Ring Magazine alone. Then I could talk about my work on Boxing Monthly Magazine. I could talk about my national radio work. I could talk about, you've listened to my show before. If you listen to my show consistently, you know that I jump down Oscar De La Hoya's throat all the time, even though technically I get paid by him through Ring Magazine. I'm very critical of Grandpa Bob all the time when they deserve it. I'm critical of Al Heyman because there's certain things Al Heyman does that I think are not necessarily the best thing for boxing fans. However, I compliment Arum and PBC when they do the right thing. And they do the right thing. And as far as matchups go, they're fucking crushing it in 2019. It's not even a contest. They've had the best fights this year. The problem is they're charging you guys $80 for each one of them. Now, if it's worth the money to you, go ahead and pay the money. That's fine. But, dude, I talk about this all the time on my channel. I can't just put out puff pieces for everybody. And I don't do that. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw me last night trolling the fuck out of ESPN and the whole lineal shit with Tyson Fury, who's not the lineal heavyweight champion. He's not. I've been very critical of Oscar De La Hoya and the whole situation with Canelo Alvarez. I get constantly called a Canelo Alvarez hater. I call it the way I see it, dude. And that's going to involve me being critical of the guy that you said runs boxing. No one person runs boxing. It's a collective. There's many people who run boxing. Me and Bob Arum are on a first-name basis. Me and Eddie Hearn are on a first-name basis. But there's guys at PBC, certain promoters at PBC, I could call them right now here on the show, and we could shoot the shit and have beers because we are on a first-name basis. Okay? There's dudes at PBC that I've hung out at the gyms with them. I know them very, very well. So you're taking a piece that you saw or read of me at one point, and you're taking that and you're extrapolating it or whatever. You're making it out to be my whole point of view. It's not, dude. I'm fair, and I call it across the board.
Okay, all right, well, sure. Let me ask you this question. Now, you just said that Tyson Fury is not the lineal heavyweight champion of the world.
No.
Please explain.
Huh?
What do you mean, no? You just made the claim.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you. You want me to say why I don't think he's lineal champion? Because
please explain.
Say why he's not. It's hard to hear you a little bit, man. But
that's what he wants.
Okay. He's not the lineal champion because number one, he performance-enhancing drugs once, which UCAD didn't report to Vladimir Klitschko. He was fucking furious about it, and so furious about it, he demanded VADA for the rematch. And then when they were negotiating the rematch, he did coke and he got suspended and the whole 9 yards. He didn't fight for about 3 years. I don't know about you, dude. If I didn't show up to work for 3 years, I wouldn't have my fucking job. So as far as I'm concerned, Tyson Fury gave up the lineage. That lineage is broken. And by the way, his fight with Deontay Wilder, I scored in a draw. I thought the 2 knockdowns when Wilder dropped him twice was enough to make it a draw. I was totally fine with the draw. And that's not me hating on Tyson Fury or defending Deontay Wilder. That's just what I saw. And by the way, when they do a rematch, Wilder's going to win the rematch.
All right, so wait. How well do you know your boxing history?
You want to challenge me? I know it pretty well, brother. And if you think I'm just some fan, I boxed in the Marine Corps. I probably sparred a couple hundred rounds in my lifetime. I busted my nose a few times. My nose is mashed potatoes. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw a name out there. All right. So you base part of your argument on Tyson Fury not being the heavyweight champion. You base part of that argument on him having sat out for 3 years. Now I'm going to throw a name out there to you, and let's see if it rings any bells. Jack Dempsey. You know who he was, right?
No, I don't know who Jack Dempsey was.
All right. Well, I'll be more than happy to explain it to you, sir.
What the fuck does
I'll be more than happy to explain it to you.
Me being biased and being an Eddie Hearn cocksucker.
I will be more than happy to explain it to you because you see, you know what Jack Dempsey did? Jack Dempsey sat out of the ring for 3 years, just like your boy Tyson Fury did. And guess what he did? He defended the heavyweight championship after having sat down for 3 years. So
did Braddock.
My question to you is:
so did Braddock.
Was Jack Dempsey not the heavyweight champion when he came back from his 3 years off?
You're comparing an era 60, 70 years ago to right now, when there's 4 sanctioning bodies.
The problem with
pardon me, we're talking about the heavyweight. Wait, stop.
No, dude, you're comparing. Why don't we compare
this is the shit that I'm talking about right here.
Era to
well, fight doctor. Back then, they didn't get stripped of their titles. Tyson Fury did. Back then, they.
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop. Hold on, wait. Can we hit the pause button? Listen. The WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO, the HOMO, it does not matter. None of those sanctioning organizations have any meaning. They are meaningless. The only title that has any meaning is the lineal title. Why? Because that is the title that has history.
That's opinion,
okay?
Dude.
That's opinion.
That's opinion.
Okay, so let me ask you. So where was the WBC? Where was the IBF when Jack Johnson was heavyweight champion? They didn't exist. Why? Because they don't have any meaning.
The WBA existed back then, but they were the NBA. The WBA did exist. What ultimately became the NBA, or the WBA did exist back then. It was the NBA back then. That's the oldest sanctioning body.
But the question was, that was not the question. The question was, where was the WBC and where was the IBF?
Huh?
Okay, look, that's fine. But the question was, where was the WBC and where was the IBF?
The BC came along like in the 50s, the IBF in the 80s. But what does this have to do with me being biased, dude? Like you're jumping all over.
I was going to ask that, yeah.
Like we're jumping in circles. You're trying to get me, dude. You're not going to get me.
The question is, I bring up Jack Johnson. I'll bring up Jack Dempsey. And all of a sudden, there's a different set of rules that apply to Jack Dempsey than what applies to Tyson Fury. Now, Jack Dempsey can sit down on the heavyweight title for 3 years and then defend it after a 3-year layoff. You seemingly have no problem with that. But now all of a sudden, you have a problem when Tyson Fury does the same thing. Listen,
they didn't feel drug tests.
You're saying I don't have a problem with Jack Dempsey's reign and that you just spoke for me, dude. You just assumed something and spoke for me. By the way, you're comparing.
That was the question that I asked, but you didn't want to answer the question.
Jackie Robinson played to baseball now, because that's what you're doing.
That's when the mob was running boxing fight, Doc. You can't make a comparison. The mob was running everything. The mob superseded the commissions.
There was one commission. No, Beeb. There was one commission.
It was New York. Yeah, it was New York.
The boxing commissions have to do with the sport of boxing.
But the mob,
the boxing commissions don't determine who is not the heavyweight champion. They don't.
But the mob was running. But the mob had an influence over them too.
Listen, guys, I'm not disputing. Listen,
whether
the mob was running boxing or whomever, that was beside the point. We are talking about what happens inside the ring. Now, listen, unless the fight is fixed, the mob does not determine who wins.
Okay. Dude, you need to listen to my show tomorrow.
I think we're going to have to move on, man.
Come on to my show tomorrow night and chat with me in live on the neutral corner, and we'll chop it up. And you can see that I'm not this biased, prejudiced piece of shit you think I am. There's a lot you don't know about me that would probably surprise you.
Wait, now listen, I never accused you of being prejudiced.
Okay,
don't put
bias.
that on me.
Well, bias, prejudice, same shit, right? I didn't mean racially. I just mean...
Now, bias, yes. Not knowing shit about boxing, yes. But prejudice, I never accused you of
what
being
do I know about... What did I just say about boxing that isn't true? I actually just taught you some shit.
You seem to think that Tyson Fury isn't the lineal heavyweight champion just because he sat out for 2 years.
What do I know about boxing?
Well, apparently you don't know who Jack Dempsey is.
I was fucking trolling you, you moron.
He was being facetious, fight
the
doctor.
next time I ask you who Jack Dempsey is and you know who he is, answer in the affirmative. Thank you very much.
Why don't you go back and you need to go back and subscribe, Fight Doctor. You're missing out on a lot of good content, Fight Doctor. You gotta go back and subscribe.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about boxing history real quick, Fight Doctor? Go back and read my piece on the history of the welterweight division and the biggest fights in welterweight division history in Ring Magazine a few months ago. I think you'll find that piece interesting. It's a historical piece. And I bring it up to today with the proposed fight between Spence and Crawford and how that would compare historically to the great welterweight fights over the last century plus. You might enjoy that. And it's a historical piece for you since you know so much more about me in boxing history. And I don't know dick. Check that out. And I got paid to do that, so somebody must believe I know what I'm talking about.
There it is.
I'll see you tomorrow night,
All
Fight
right,
Doctor.
so-
I know you'll be watching. All right, next.
That's right. That's
By the
right.
way, my phone battery
right.
is at 18%, so bring them on before my phone dies. Because I only got a few more before my phone dies.
All right, we got Jason at 706. 706, you are live.
What the hell's wrong with Fight Doctor? He started with fucking Roy Jones to fucking Dempsey. Like, I'm not a big fan of Montero, but that didn't really make much sense. So I just wanted to give Montero a pass on that. But
thank you, Jason.
But I wish guys like Montero, when that fucking scammer Bob Arum gets in between Wilder versus Fury 2, when it's right at the finish line of being signed and shit, when he comes between that and kind of sabotages that fight, they would write articles calling him a cancer, like they could write articles about Heyman. That's what my problem with guys like Heyman is. I mean, with Montero is, They never write articles like that about him being bad for boxing. They save that kind of shit for Heyman. That's the only issue with, I think most people in the LDBC, that's the issue with guys like Montero and Ben Rafael, all the hatred, all the fucking innuendos about somebody's motivations, why he's so evil or why he's so bad, is all of that is saved for Heyman. That's the issue. When Bob Arum blocks the biggest fight in the heavyweight division, none of these writers write articles bashing him, saying he's bad for boxing. You will never find an article saying Bob is bad for boxing for that. You will never find it. You'll find articles about him for fucking years, for smaller shit than that, but not about Bob, You'll never find articles about Bob being bad for boxing when he stops Jose Ramirez from going to the WBSS. You will never see that from Montero or fucking Dan or Kim. Never. That's how they get access and all that shit, and that's fine. That's how the Washington works. That's the boxing.
I get access because I work my ass off.
Sport. I mean, no, listen. This is how Washington works. So I don't expect boxing to work any different. This is how Washington works. So boxing has to work like that.
Okay.
So,
look.
I mean,
Jason, stop for a second. Let me respond. Okay. I challenge you to find an article I've written in any publication saying Al Heyman is bad for boxing. You won't find it. Now,
you say it all the time in your videos, dude. I've been following you for years. Come on.
Name me an instance in the last 2 years where I've said that, please. You can't.
Well, last two years he hasn't left you much choices. I mean, he's fucking taking over boxing.
I think you're full of shit, Jason. I think you're full of shit.
No,
and
everybody's seen your hatred for Heyman. You don't have to go tell me I'm full of shit.
Okay,
everybody's seen it. I'm not. I don't have to.
Hold on a second. Come on. Let me respond because you're going to say something that's false.
Go ahead.
Dude, I'm not going to go over all the articles I've written and all the fights I've covered for Al Heyman and PBC over the last 2 years. I've given his fighters exposure in Ring Magazine, but also in Boxing Monthly over in the UK. I was the first. I'm not British, but I'm the American analyst for Boxing Monthly magazine, and I was the first guy to expose Errol Spence to the fans over there in Boxing Monthly magazine. I did an exclusive on him before anybody did, before Errol Spence had his title. So I've done a lot of work for Al Heyman in PBC. Does Al Heyman do some things?
Yeah, but that's your job. That's your job, dude. That's your job. I'm just saying. You should respond. You should respond to what I said about you never writing articles about Bob Arum being a fucking cancer. How he blocks fights. How he blocked Ramirez from going to WBSS. How he blocked Wilder versus Fury 2 from happening last year. He ruined that fight. That fight's ruined.
You said one. Let me respond to one before we go to the next. Now, specifically to Ramirez in the tournament, I've tweeted out 1,000 times that Grandpa Bob doesn't do tournaments, and I think it was a mistake not to put Gilberto Ramirez in the tournament or Jose Ramirez in the tournament. In the long run, it worked out for Jose Ramirez because they did a unification fight with Maurice Hooker, and that worked out for them. But, dude, I've been very critical of Bob Arum, particularly on Twitter and everywhere else. But I haven't written an article. I don't write articles that say this guy sucks and he's horrible for boxing. I don't do that. I write articles that talk about fights or boxing history, or present a prospect to the world. I did an article in Ring, the first article in Ring about Dimitri Bivol, about Devin Haney, introducing those guys to the fans, telling their story. I just did one on Virgil Ortiz. I just told Caleb Plant's story. Like, that's the type of work I try to do, dude. Uplifting work, explaining these people's stories. I don't try to just bash the shit out of people. Now, am I critical of some people? Yes, but I'm critical across the board. I don't just beat up on one side, dude. Yeah. Huh?
I just seem to, all the shrapnel and all the snark and all the fucking hatred seems to go towards PBC, all the little jabs and all that shit. I mean, that's what I noticed. I've been watching you for years. Not like I don't watch all your videos.
Well, you can't name a specific incident, dude. That's why and stuff,
I think you're paranoid, Jason. Jason, you're a little paranoid. You're a little paranoid. Jason.
I also, it's more than just paranoid.
No, come on.
I think Jason,
it's not a big deal. I mean,
You're disingenuous, bro, because you can't name a specific instance where I outright bash the shit out. Look, have I tweeted some shit before? Have I said some things in an interview or something before and look back and think, you know what? I could have worded that differently. I could have worded that better. I could have got my point across more clearly. If I could go back and redo that, I'd redo it. I'd reword that tweet. Have I deleted some tweets when I looked at it and saw how it could be misinterpreted? Yes. But
it's not even that, bro. It's not even that. Like, it's not even that overall. Like the kind of matchups PBC puts, they'll be like, sometimes soft tune-ups, but guys like fucking Grozdick will fight somebody like Dudu with 8 losses when fucking one leg on ESPN, and I don't see no fucking criticism for you guys. You got Usyk fucking fighting Chuck'em, and that's over. Dude, now he's fighting TBA, and everybody's like, I can't wait for Usyk to fight. Imagine if fucking somebody else was fighting somebody. Usyk, who's Usyk going to fight? Nobody's going to fight that guy. Come on.
Montero's crushing you. Montero's crushing you like a used-up Coke can.
Jason, if you follow me on Twitter, you'd know that I bashed the shit out of the Gvozdyk Dudu fight. I call fights with the. We talked about the Golden Boys card in Los Angeles at the top of the show, and I called it what it was. We called it, Matt. What was the fight we just previewed? The cards that we just previewed, Beeb, Eric, where we said these are set-up fights. These are showcase fights.
It's not good enough for him.
Hey,
it's not good enough for him.
Let me give you a classic example of establishment boxing thinking. All right.
He wants us to get out there with pitchforks. That's what he wants.
No, shut up. Come on. Hey, Michael, you know who Adam Abramovich is, right? SN Boxing?
Who?
SN Boxing, Adam Abramovich, the boxing writer.
Yeah,
Adam Abramovich.
Yeah, I know Adam. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me give you this exact classic example of boxing establishment like ass kissing, right? So when Grozdick fights Dudu, this guy says, I can't wait to go to Philly. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and I'm like telling him this is going to be a trash fight, dude. What are you talking about? And then when fucking what's his name, Marcus Brown is fighting Jean Pascal, this guy is trashing all over that fight, and I told him it's going to be an action-packed fight, and that's what happened. It was an upset, And he didn't say anything about the atmosphere, even though the atmosphere in the Barclays was way better than Philly.
Why is Mr. Montero accountable for other people? Why are you making him be accountable for other people? What does that have to do with him?
That happens in general in boxing. Everything PBC gets shitted on.
What does that have to do with Michael Montero? He didn't do that.
That's trying to promote it like it's the best shit.
Why are you lumping him in with everybody else? Does his own work. He's original.
I'm not lumping him with everybody else. I'm just giving him an example of this. Calm down. Also listen.
Jason,
everybody's talking about.
Jason, can I say one thing? Jason, I'm not going to give details, but I've had offers to work exclusively with certain publications, okay? Certain streaming platforms, certain publications. And I've turned those offers down because I like to stay independent. Right now, I could write for anybody. I could do commentary for any promoter. I can call into any show I want. I'm totally independent.
You should, dude. You should, dude. Even though I'm saying you're biased towards PBC or like against PBC, I think you'd be better on DAZN than what they have. I'm telling you. Even though I'm biased against you should. If they offer you a job at DAZN, you should take that shit. I'm just saying. But
don't try to backtrack now. Don't try to backtrack now because you're getting destroyed. Don't try to backtrack now because you're getting destroyed.
Everybody's. Shut up.
Why are you looking for brownie points? Why are you looking for brownie points because you're on the ropes?
Everybody is slobbering over Bob for making Jose Ramirez versus John Hooker. He has no choice. What else is he going to do? I mean, Jose Ramirez's career otherwise has been mediocre. Like, yeah, he sells $14,000, $20 tickets in whatever place he sells it, like in L.A., but
that's the first, like, really legit fight he's had. What you just said wasn't biased at all. What you just said wasn't demeaning and biased at all, Jason.
You can't handle the truth, Jason. You just can't
That's
handle it.
That's what Top Rank said. That's what Top Rank said, that one of Jose Ramirez fight cards had a fucking gate of like $80,000, even though they sold like 14,000 tickets. So
Who
that
gives
tells
a
you
fuck?
something, you know.
14,000 people went
Whatever.
to see live boxing. That's a win. Who gives a fuck about the money? Why do you
Yeah.
guys
So
argue so much about the money?
So you that's what.
Wow,
so is that why you guys?
another
Is that
KO
why you guys have
punch.
been? Is that why?
Another KO punch from Montero.
Is that why you
Oh,
guys
hold
have
on.
been bashing
When I was
PBC
in Dallas,
and saying
when I was
PBC
in
gives
Dallas
comps out to
covering
people,
Spence Garcia,
even though everybody gives out comps? You know, that's why you guys have been bashing PBC for giving out comps, even though I see Top Rank giving out thousands of free tickets every fucking week. Top Rank is giving out thousands of tickets to their shows.
When I was in Dallas earlier this year covering Spence Garcia, and they did 50,000 fans, about 50,000. Go back on my channel and watch my conversation with Ray Flores, who I'm good friends with. He's a good guy. And we were talking about the fact that 50,000 fans went to see live boxing.
I saw it.
Okay, then. I was praising Errol Spence and PBC for putting 50,000 butts in seats in an American arena.
I know.
Killing you,
choice, man. But you guys have been
killing you
for like tiny little things.
He's killing you.
You guys excuse away Top Rank's problems, and you guys bash PBC for the same things. You guys excuse fucking Top Rank for the same
Where am
behavior
I
that you bash
excused
PBC
Top
for.
Rank?
That's my problem. That's it.
About to fight a no-name guy in Las Vegas, and they're going to give away thousands of tickets. Where am I lying?
Yeah, and like they did for 2,000 tickets for Loma versus Corolla in LA. I mean, Loma's been fighting fucking tomato cans too. He fought those Sosas and Mariagas and Corollas. I mean, that's the same kind of shit to me. You know, everybody wants to bash Tank, but Tank fucking knocked out Pedraza in the 16-17 fight. Loma he went the distance with Pedraza, didn't he? And everybody wants to say, oh, Tank only fights.
Do you understand the way boxing works?
What do you mean, who gives a shit?
Pedraza was drained at 26. Yeah. Number 2, styles make fights.
So that's the Top Rank. So that's a Top Rank talking point, and you want to repeat that lazy ass talking point to diminish fucking Tank's achievement. That's what you guys always do. That's what you always fucking do. So when Tank has a great win, the guy is drained. When Loma goes the distance, the guy is not. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here, dude. Hell no. Anytime a PBC guy has a big win, you gotta always fucking bring it down.
Huh?
Get the hell out of here. Every time a fucking PBC guy has a big win, they gotta fucking lower that shit. You know? That's what Top Rank said. Oh no, Pedraza was drained. Pedraza took that fight. He's a professional fighter. A lot of fighters are fucking drained. Most fighters are drained at weigh-ins. I mean, what the fuck? What kind of excuse is that?
I didn't
Who the fuck isn't drained in boxing?
But I'm telling you. Will you shut the fuck up and let me answer?
You don't think Tank will knock out Pedraza at 135?
You know who you are,
dude. You don't think Tank will knock out?
You'll be at a fight, and you'll see me at a fight, and you'll try to fucking act all friendly and shit. Right now, you're talking shit because you're on the internet. But when you see me in person, hey, Mike, how's it going, pal? You're that motherfucker.
He'd be pissing his pants if he saw you in person, Mike. He'd be pissing his pants. He'd have to bring a new set of underwear. He'd bring 2 sets of underwear if he had to meet you.
You're that same motherfucker I deal with all the time. Look,
just like
the
other guy.
What the fuck you just said, I'm not saying Gervonta Davis's win over Pedraza was shit. It was a good win, but you're asking... You're making it seem like him knocking Pedraza out and Pedraza going rounds with Loma disqualifies Loma's win. Styles make fights. He had 4 more pounds on him. Who gives a fuck? You're cherry picking, dude. I could go back. I could do the same thing against you. You feel that you're this white knight that's protecting people, but you're actually you're grading the you're curbing the grading scale for certain people. Because you feel you're superior to them. You're actually a bigot, dude. You're actually a biased bigot who treats people differently based on where they come from or whatever. I treat everybody equally. I hold everyone to the same standard. That's the difference between you and me, Jason.
He's killing you, Jason. You want to quit right now?
Wow.
You want to take the L?
Montero just pissed on you, Jason.
Wow.
That's jacked up, man.
He's not even responding, you guys.
On mute? Am I still on mute, dude?
You're on mute. Your brain's on mute right now. You got destroyed.
Come on.
Your brain's on mute. You got destroyed.
No, Montero. You got writers out there bashing you for putting out like videos with saying N-word and shit. You don't want to go there with me.
I never said N-word. Don't say that about me.
Whatever, dude. You've got the history about bashing all the black fighters, not me, okay? Going out of your way to match most like American black fighters. That's
Just did a piece on Errol Spence. He's African American. What are you talking about?
You don't want me to go there. You don't want me to go there.
Right.
Come on.
Did a piece on Errol Spence.
Look, if you're referring to
You're getting paid $50 to do that piece.
Let me get this on record. If you're referring to me quoting another person using that word, like when Angel Garcia used that word, or people against Keith Thurman and stuff like that, yes, I'm quoting what a person said as part of a story. But I'd never use that damn word. I have family members who are black and mulatto. I wouldn't use that damn word. Okay? I have an interracial family. Dude, I shouldn't even have to bring this shit up with someone like you, but I can't even begin to explain to you how hurtful it is when fucking assholes like you accuse me of things that aren't true when it comes to racism and things like that, because that's the worst thing you can say about a person. And I'm just not going to sit here and let you do it. If somebody wants to take some quote I said out of context and try to make it look a certain way because they have an agenda, because they want to try to bring somebody down, fuck them. That's not who I am. And people that know me in this sport and follow my work, they know that's not who I am. Get the fuck out of here with that. I'm not going to tolerate that, man.
Agreed. We're actually going to move on from Jason now. It is 1:45 a.m. Hamed, talk to me.
Yeah, how's it going? I was just
Good,
going to say, that guy Jason, yes, Montero, how's it going? I've been following you for a while, so...
What's up, man? How you doing, brother?
Talk to you on new... Yeah, I'm good. How's it going?
It's going all right, man. You know, some of these people are weird, man. It's the internet.
I just got to see...
That's an understatement.
I just got to see this Jason guy run away from Ring IQ on Twitter. So he acts so tough, but in a proper debate, he ran away. And he blocked me as well, so he's a bitch. That's all I got to say.
He's a fringe type of person. He's on the fringes of society. And most people are somewhere in the middle and moderate about things and objective about things. He's not one of those people.
Yeah, Montero, I gotta say, with Mike, I've disagreed with you a lot of times, but look, everyone is biased to a degree. We can all agree on that. Like, everyone has some sort of bias in them. But I remember you scoring the fight for Danny Jacobs over Golovkin, and I heard you say that Terence Crawford is the pound-for-pound fighter, number one, arguably. Now, I think he might be pushing an agenda if he's calling you a racist, because I think that's like the way out of his head. Like, I think that's an ignorant statement.
Yeah, look, people are going to say what they're going to say, and it's in this day and age in 2019, that's what people do when they don't hear what they want to hear. But the reality is, you know, I call things like I see them, and because I see everybody equally, I hold everyone to the same standard, and that involves me criticizing someone. So, like, let's say with this Jason guy, right? I'm just as critical of Al Heyman as I am about Bob Arum or somebody else. I hold him to the same standard because I think Bob Arum is an extremely intelligent man and very capable. He doesn't need anyone to help him out or save him. Jason sees, I think there's a little bit of prejudice in him, and he feels superior to somebody like Arum, and he feels he needs to protect them. And I don't look at people that way. I see people as equal, and that involves sometimes being critical. No one's above criticism.
Yeah, could I say, I think, some writers are, like, they deserve to be criticized. Like, Steve Kim, I think he's very biased towards Golovkin, and I think maybe there's a couple of other fighters. To my back of my head, I can't really recall, but that doesn't mean every writer is the same. Same with Dan Rafael. I thought he's extremely biased towards Klitschko, and I think there's a couple of other fighters as well, but that doesn't mean all writers are the same. I don't agree with a lot of them, but if you're pushing a pro-PBC agenda, that means maybe you're biased, because I think PBC deserves to be criticized, because I remember when Heyman came into boxing, he said that PBC is going to be free fights on TV, but I'm pretty sure they've been putting on now, like, what is it, the fourth or fifth pay-per-view? So whatever happened to the free TV model, whatever they were trying to come up with?
Yeah, look, Heyman, you know, it's his prerogative if he wants to do pay-per-view, and if the fans respond and they buy the pay-per-view and the fighters get paid well, good for them. But a matchup like Spence versus Porter, which is probably the number 1 welterweight, number 2 welterweight in the world versus a top 10, maybe top 5 welterweight, that's a hell of a fight. But that's the fight you were promised on free TV back in 2015. You were told those were the matchups you were going to get on Fox, on CBS. Yeah. It never materialized. There was a couple of them. I thought Thurman Garcia was a good matchup, right? But those fights are finally happening, but they're on pay-per-view. And to be fair, Top Rank did a pay-per-view nobody wanted to see this year too, when they had Crawford Khan. That was a rip-off and a money grab for Top Rank. So it's not just PBC. But yes, they have 4 or 5 of them. And I think that, in my opinion, that is the wrong direction to be going in right now. And if I'm critical of that, look, I'm critical. Do I think Spence Garcia was a pay-per-view worthy fight? No. But I thought it was a good, intriguing fight, so much so that I traveled to Dallas to cover it. Spence Porter, another fight. Maybe that's pay-per-view worthy, but I'm flying to LA to cover that fight too. I think Errol Spence is the next big thing. So I want to be around him and follow him as he rises. I've gone to Dallas and I watched his fight against Kell Brook in Dallas with some of his family members at a party they were doing, right? So like at a movie theater of all places. They had a DJ. It was pretty cool. But I want to be attached to that. I want to see that rise and ride that wave, right? So like, for someone to say that I'm biased or have some sort of agenda, my agenda is pro boxing. And I go where the fighters are, and I go where the story is. And that's where it should be.
That's true. The thing is, the PBC deserve to be criticized. Because look, they're not willing to work with other promoters. I put this out on Twitter, and I think one of the guys, I'm not going to name his name, but he started attacking me and trying to question me. And he went a bit left field. But look, Wilder Joshua didn't happen. That involved the PBC fight there. What was the other fight? Spence Crawford, which it looks like might never happen at this stage. That's another PBC fight. And the third fight, I think maybe Lomachenko and Mikey Garcia, although there is a bit of a rift there because Mikey was a former top-ranked fighter. But if they're not willing to work with other promoters and they're discounting the WBO belt, why shouldn't we criticize them? Because this is boxing where we would like all the promoters to work with each other.
Hamed, I agree. But I just want to let you guys know my phone is almost dead. So if it cuts out, it's not me hanging up on you guys. I just want to let you know it might cut out here. But Hamed, there's a track record with Heyman and PBC of them not wanting to work across the aisle. Now, you can say the exact same thing about every promoter. Every promoter looks out for their best interest. But if you look just this year alone, we just saw Ramirez and Hooker fight. That was the co-promotion. We've seen co-promotions between Top Rank and some other promoters. You don't see Al Heyman working across the aisle that much. You just don't see it. We know Bob Arum has reached out for Terrence Crawford to fight Danny Garcia a couple times, and that's been turned down, right? So there is a track record there. Now, some people shit on Al Heyman and say that he's the only one doing that stuff. That's unfair. That's untrue. All promoters pull stunts, but there is a track record there, a clear track record of them not wanting to work across the aisle with their top fighters and them manipulating fans and drawing out storylines. All promoters do it. Max Kellerman's talked about this in recent years. I mean, sorry, go ahead. As well.
Eddie Hearn in the UK is not willing to work with like Frank Warren at times. So I've been critical of Eddie Hearn. I don't think someone should fanboy a promotional, promotional like outfits or anything like that. Like I want to see the best fight, the best. Like Spence Porter is a good fight. I support that. Like I want to see that fight. What was the other fight? Wilder Fury, I thought that was a good fight as well. And if they make the right fights, I got no problem with that. Like same with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. If he makes the best fights, then I got no problem with that. I'm not going to criticize every fight. Like, I don't have an agenda against a specific promoter, but if they're not willing to work with others, then what more can you do? You got to criticize them. Like that was that was something that I think people have a right to do as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, that's all I try to do. And look, when Canelo fought Julio Cesar Chavez in Las Vegas and they were gouging fans with those ticket prices, and that was pay-per-view, I bashed the shit out of it. I did a video bashing the shit out of the ticket prices. So I do this with every single promoter. I mean, you could say ESPN and Top Rank right now, they're having the worst year out of all the top American promoters because their fighters aren't fighting anybody. They're building to something big in 2020. They're going to have a big payoff next year for what they're building toward, but they're having a down year. So, like, it goes in circles. And at some point, you're going to be critical of everybody, and at some point, you're going to compliment everybody. The thing is, on the internet, some people only see that criticism that one time, and they take that and run with it, and they make an agenda or a narrative out of it. So, you know, all I could do is ignore people like that. And you should, too. Block idiots out there. That's my advice to anybody watching this. I guess you guys take Jason's calls on the show because it's fun, because he's such a fucking mentally deranged fuckhead. So it's fun to take his calls, you know, but I get it.
Jason's like that stray dog that's got nowhere else to go. That's why we welcome him in here.
Yeah. Give him a little piece of bacon and just help
him. Give him a little doggy treat just to keep him on. You know, I feel bad for the kid. I love you, Jason.
I was going to say, I actually had to do that as well. Look, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got opinions. But when you present facts and people want to reject them and start shouting their opinions, I mean, that's just pushing a narrative. Like, if people are just going to defend a certain promoter or outfit, then, I mean, that is being biased and pushing a narrative. Because I've called out Hearn, Matchroom, and same as PBC for not making fights that we want to see. And I see no problem. If that's the same thing with Top Rank, I do the same. I just want to see with, I know we spent a while on this topic, with Kovalev Yard, I'm not too sure if Kovalev will win this fight. Boxing is a mental game, and I personally think this could be either perfect timing or a bridge too far. And I got a feeling Yard actually might knock him out to win this fight.
It's certainly possible.
The thing with this fight is Kovalev has had a lot of problems. I don't think he's as good as he was, and even though he looked good or the performance was good against Alvarez in the rematch, body language-wise, I don't think he looked the same. And I think Buddy McGregor has had a lot of, mentally, a lot of things to deal with the whole tragedy with, was it Maxim Dadashov? And I'm not too sure if that might have taken a toll with Kovalev as well. He's had a lot of problems in and out the ring. I'm not sure. Kovalev should win this fight on paper, but you never know. In Russia, it is a big ask though for Yard. I just got a feeling Yard actually might pull this off.
That's why they fight the fights, baby.
There you go. All right, hot man, we're going to get running here, man. Thank you so much for the call, and I cannot believe it is almost 2 a.m. over there. We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to this next call. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left here before the lights go out at Rikers and Georgie Cell closes. So, Georgie, 508, you're live.
Hey, yo, what's happening, people? Brother, gotta call in and save this show.
Good evening, Georgie. How are you?
Somebody gotta step up. Listen, I see that we got a guest here, and he be kicking ass. I thought his fight doctor would have hired him. He gave him a shot. He came out short. Jason didn't even put a fight. I was working this whole fucking around. So I guess it's up to me.
Jason's bleeding right now.
Montero, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. Nice meeting you, brother. Nice meeting you.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to your channel. Be a subscriber for a little bit. Man, you get accused of a lot of shit. Oh, hold on. Before I forget,
90 seconds.
Go to my channel and check out that fucking video I'm doing for you. I want to make you guys an angel, but I need some feedback. So
yeah. Let me know, man. Just send me the. Just go to Twitter. Go to my Twitter at Ringside 73. My Twitter at Ringside 73. And just give me the.
I get in contact with you. Back to the matter at hand, because time is precious. Listen. Every time I come to the show, I talk about my
60 seconds.
All this talking I heard Mr. Beeb talking. Shout out to Beeb, boxing in the house. Talking about the mafias when they used to run the sport. What's your take about that? Because as far as I know, they got a jacket and a tie on them, but it's the same mafias.
You dropped off, Georgie.
Because the WBC is a mafia, the WBI, all these fucking so-called, what is it called, fucking sanctioning bodies, the conglomerate of force combaggery.
Yes, Jason.
I mean, this
yes,
is
Georgie.
fraud. The sport that we love is fraud. What's your take on that?
He dropped off, Jason.
I think,
Georgie.
I think, I was going to say, I think he dropped out. Yeah, unfortunately, Mike
10 seconds.
The fucking Heyman hacking the show. Attack Somebody called the FBI, the CIA, the president. We promised.
Son, what are you supposed to do? It's a no decision. What are you going to do? Took too long to answer.
I won. Listen, did I won then? He forfeit.
It's a no contest.
What do you mean a no contest? I'm here.
It's a no contest.
What? Oh my God, man. People.
It hadn't even
leave a comment with the timeout.
It is, man.
Resealing activity.
Jason in the chat just said, don't come back, Montero.
Be knocking this work. Everybody be knocking this work.
Are you surprised that Jason called in, Steve?
Yeah. Say that one time.
Jason got sick. Jason didn't do shit. He didn't do anything.
Jason got destroyed on that point.
They didn't even put effort.
I think he
Listen,
jumped Montero.
That Kova. Let me talk about the Kova fight, guys. You think, yo, if you go to Russia, you got balls and a lot of confidence. I mean, Kova is not all the way done. Kova still got at least like another 2 good fights on him. Maybe 3 or 4. So what's your take on that fight? Because that's my most anticipated fight right now.
I'm telling you, I think Yard wins that fight.
I picked Kovalev.
Right, I'm siding with him too.
I'm picking Kovalev.
Is that true about that power? You think that power was that devastating? Yo, he looks solid, but Kova can crack. It's like a 50-50, but the youth, and because what War did with the body attack, if he go through that plan, I think he can pull it out.
I like Kovalev.
Well, in Russia.
I like Kovalev.
Kovalev Beeb.
So
yeah.
Beeb and Montero had Kovalev. I had Yard.
I got Yard too. I think the youth and that body attack can take him there. But then again,
doesn't have a good body attack.
Make it to the 12th round.
Doesn't have a good body attack.
Listen. This is the situation with these mafias, man. What I'm saying, he's not gonna go to Russia, and he doesn't knock Kovalev out. Kovalev's gonna win. That's a given. Another shit that I want to talk about is Ruiz talking about that he want a fucking level playing field. That he don't want to get set up. Dog, you're going to get set up on Jupiter, dog. You can find in the moon and you're going to get set up down there. Here in the United States, they got you fucking losing after dropping Joshua like what, 4 times? And he was down in the score. So where the fuck is it the Ruiz thing that he's gonna get some type of justice? He gotta go out there and knock him out. So I mean, if you complain about security, I get that. Yeah, Saudi Arabia, fuck that shithole. I ain't going down there. I'm with her. Fuck these niggas. Anyways, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if he's gonna get set up on Saudi Arabia, he's gonna get set up on New York. He can go to Mexico, he's gonna set up down there. Because whoever put in the event is gonna set him up. And that's Eddie. Right or wrong?
Yeah, he's definitely he's definitely in a dilemma. I think the promotion's definitely tilted towards Joshua's side, without question.
And you don't know, Eric, Man, we gotta love you, Eric. We gotta love you. I just don't feel like putting work on you. I'm gonna leave it for next week. Well, I don't have a lot of shit to say. Everybody out there support the channel, the UK, Montero. We're gonna leave it for the next time. You didn't have to run away from me like that. So, hey, I'm gonna take it as a draw, 1-0 contest. We run it again. Until next time, hey, I'm outie.
All right, Georgie.
Peace out, Georgie.
Georgie's like that slow uncle you never talk about, isn't he?
I love Georgie.
All right, let's go back to the news. What's ahead?
I love Georgie.
I do too. He's a good guy. All right, let's go to our next story. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather 2 may happen. Floyd Mayweather posted a video saying that he's going to, it was a very short, about a 10-second video, posted a video saying that he's going to Saudi Arabia to negotiate terms for a Pacquiao-Mayweather rematch. Beeb, is this actually going to happen?
No. PR stunt. I don't believe it for a second.
Think it happens?
No.
Just a publicity stunt?
Yes.
Yeah, Floyd's been known to pull a couple of those in his time. All right. Regis Prograis and Josh Taylor in talks now to revive that fight. If you'll recall, early on in the week, Regis Prograis, I guess, filed a lawsuit against the World Boxing Super Series and is threatening to leave the tournament. It appears now the two sides are negotiating, trying to talk it out, and trying to solve the issue. It'll be interesting. That contract, man, I remember when the other guy tried to get out of it. The other guy tried to get out of the contract, too. Listen, apparently that thing is ironclad. He's not going anywhere. And if he does try to duck this for whatever reason, he's going to be tied up for a long time, man. I think he's going to be tied up for a long time. That's just me. I don't know. All right. Train wreck of the week. Your boy, Beeb. Your boy, Conor McGregor.
What a disgrace.
A man in a bar. This was insane, man.
Huge disgrace.
So you can see the video on TMZ. So the dispute happened over whiskey. Let that sink in for a minute. Whiskey, okay? The guy at the bar had refused a sample of Conor McGregor's Proper 12 whiskey, which is very good, by the way. The man said something to the effect of, "I'm not drinking that, bleep." Then McGregor hauled off and punched him in the face with a left hand. Apparently this happened in April, but the tape just surfaced, man. This is not a good look, man. This is not a good look. And the guy, Jason just said, he punched a guy my dad's age. Yeah, the guy looked the guy looked like he was in his 50s, maybe 60s, maybe late 50s or something like that. He wasn't.
Looks 60 to me.
He wasn't like for sure, man. Definitely an older guy. I mean, McGregor just popped him. I don't understand it, man. Just not a good look for McGregor at all.
Horrible look.
So, there you go. Yeah, it's awful. Alexander Gvozdyk and Arthur Beterbiev, whatever you want to call him this week,
Beterbiev
will fight Friday. I like Beterbiev. Friday, October 18th. Those two are set to hook up in Philadelphia. ESPN will televise it, so that should be pretty good, man. I like that fight, Beeb.
I don't hate it either. It's a good fight.
It's a great fight, yeah, for sure, man.
Can't complain about that one. Not at all.
How far are you away from Philly? How far are you from Philly?
That's a hike. That's about maybe 7 hours. Because New York is
like I hear that
New York is 5 hours. That's probably 7 or 8.
That's insane, man. Like I hear you're from Boston, and I think because you're from the Northeast that you're close to everything. That you're close to Maine, you're close to, New York, you're close to all that.
I can get to Maine in about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I can get to Connecticut in about an hour.
Really?
I can get to Connecticut in an hour and a half. Get to New Hampshire in about 45 minutes. New York's about 5 hours.
Wow.
If I take the If I take the private plane, I can get there much quicker. But
we're sure. Which you're used to doing, of course.
Yeah.
Jason in the chat says Beeb doesn't go to fights. He can't leave Lewis alone.
Lois, that's Lois.
Lois. You genius. Anywho, that'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at jhabib1 and find our YouTube channel at ringsidereporterlive.com. You can catch Michael Montero on Twitter at Montero Unboxing. You can also find him on YouTube by just typing in Montero Unboxing. And you can find me on Twitter at Ringside73. And we will see you next week, guys.